Welcome to Hardheaded Podcast. We're excited that you've joined us as we have a conversation. We found that a good conversation allows us to share what's on our mind, whether current events, what's grinding our gears, or our pet peeves.
It also allows us to share our top 3, a list of our favorite things on any given subject, most of which are highly opinionated. In closing, we share a good word. Solid friendships are encouraging. Even if we joke and give each other a hard time, our ultimate responsibility is to uplift each other.
Our goal is that you'll feel like you're part of the conversation, like you were in the studio with us, and that you feel encouraged after tuning in to our podcast. It's time to join the conversation.
All right. Thanks for listening, folks. Welcome to another exciting episode.
Thrilling episode
Of the Hardheaded Podcast.
Exciting
I'm
and
excited today because it's always exciting when we get to hear what's on Matt's mind. And so we're going to do that. We're also going to do the top 3 things that you want to take when you go hunting.
Yes.
And then Mr. Chet Sears is going to end it with a good word today.
You got it.
So let's get into it, Matt. What you got?
We kicking it off?
Yeah.
I would like to issue a public apology to everybody on the Gardner Edgerton football team.
What'd you do?
So I got invited to come speak by my cousin.
Yeah.
And and this was one because normally
to a football team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So normally I fly by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
Like I'll gauge the room and then I'll just talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't plan anything out.
Yeah.
And
shocker. I'm shocked right now.
So
you're normally Mr. Prepared.
So, well,
I just picked my jaw off the floor for the
Did
second
ya?
time tonight.
So-
from apology and unpreparedness.
Yeah.
So I normally I'll have little note cards, right?
Yeah. No, you normally don't.
Yeah, I do. And I'll just kind of but I'll look at them. I'll be like, oh, okay. And then I'll just go. And then I don't even look at them.
Yeah.
Right. Cause this is what they kind of want me to talk about. So I'll look at that. Well, this one I was like, well, what kind of time limit are you looking for? And he said, 15.
Is this like before a game?
So this was Thursday. They had a game Friday.
Okay. So you didn't make them late for their game.
No, I made them late to go eat. But there's a
Which
whole,
is probably they're more concerned about.
but let me get to
playing
that.
football.
Let me get to why they're late. So for this one, he said 15 minutes, and I said, ugh, you're kind of
Where's this Edgerton football team located?
just outside of Kansas City.
So you're going to drive 3.5 hours one way and give 15 minutes? It better be a good 15 minutes.
It's family.
Yeah.
What is Vin Diesel? What is
Family.
family? So it's for the family. So so I drive up and I was like, I haven't spoken to too many like high school level people. So
Yeah.
I was like, how am I going to relate this and how am I going to keep it to 15 minutes? I go, because when I get up and speak, it's at least 45 to an hour.
Yeah.
And, here, and he said, I was like, what do you want me to kind of talk about? And so, I took those notes and I said, okay, now I'm actually going to sit down. I'm going to write it. I'm going to say it in my head. I'm going to write it and then time myself to make sure that I stick to about that 15-minute window.
Yeah.
So I get there and then apparently they do this every Thursday night.
Is it at a banquet, like a restaurant or a locker room?
No. So it's at the school.
Okay.
And it's after practice.
You in the cafeteria?
No, I was in a lecture hall.
Okay.
So,
On a stage?
well, I stood below the stage.
Yeah. But I mean, you got to add, if that environment, you add minutes. Like by default, if I'm going to talk to people like on a bus, I'm not taking that much time. You put them in a room where they're seated and you're up front on a stage, that's going to take more time.
Yes.
Yeah, like you put Troy behind the pulpit in front of a church. If he had 5 minutes to speak, he's going to go longer than that now because he's behind a pulpit. It just adds time.
Say that word again.
Pulpit?
All right.
Pulpit. I had to speak at a networking event
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago, you have 10 minutes. I had to, and they're holding it up like 3 minutes left, 1 minute left. I was like, oh crap, I got 4 more slides. Like, what's going on?
That's your problem. You shouldn't have had slides.
Well,
Don't do slides.
I can't not do slides.
Yeah, you can. You can. I used to think that way too.
I guess I could. I would have to have like bullet points on note cards or my phone or something.
Nah, you don't necessarily.
But it's like the thing that everybody has slides. Everybody likes looking at slides.
No, they don't.
It is called death by PowerPoint. Nobody likes it.
I'm telling you, I got rid of
No
slides.
slides.
I did. I would
Really?
give 50 presentations a year to customer groups that would come through.
Yeah.
Totally got rid of slides.
Really?
And it was much better. Because people are looking at you instead of the screen. Like you're like
They're paying
boom,
attention
it's
to
a
what you're
connection.
saying. They're not trying to take notes or write down what's up there
Yeah.
and missing the focal point.
Yeah, it's
what
like-
should be the focal
That's
point.
not more important than you. But you got this huge screen that's trying to take
That
people's
makes
eyes
sense.
off of you. You're the most important thing in the room. They're there to listen to you, not to read a PowerPoint slide. So,
I could have sent them that in an email.
yeah. And if you necessarily need that to continue your cover what you want to cover, just have your laptop where you could see it like it was on the screen behind you, but don't turn on the projector. Just
Well, I didn't even really look at it. I just had my notes that I was going by on my phone.
I don't like
Yeah,
PowerPoint.
I don't
I
either.
gave up on it years ago.
Now
You'll connect better with people, and they'll like it better. They will, believe it or not. They love it. It's because it's new. It's what? Somebody's giving a presentation and they're not using PowerPoint?
I like this.
Yeah.
I'm in charge of our group now, so I may just deal with it.
Don't need it.
now you don't need PowerPoint, but I will say before I get back to my story that Peyton Manning, his speech.
Say that again?
Peyton Manning.
Oh, I thought you said Peyton Manning.
Pey-
like he was painting.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning.
His speech when he was inducted into the National Football Hall of Fame,
Uh-huh.
bar none, incredible.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And he didn't have PowerPoint, but he had slides with pictures
Yeah.
or video in the back, and they were perfect.
No words. No. Yeah.
And they were perfectly timed as he went through his story. Perfectly timed. It was. It's really good. If you haven't seen it, watch that speech because it's really, really good.
Check that out.
But anyway, so
Get back to groveling.
Put that in the show notes, eh?
Get back
put
to
a link to that because it's actually pretty good. So I get there and I'm sitting in the back because the head coach is going to speak, and so I'm sitting there as the head coach speaks, and I'm looking at the clock, and I'm like,
he's going overtime.
we're going to run a little long here, and so then
Did the head coach know that you were going to speak?
Yeah.
This guy's cutting into my time. That's
Yeah.
what Matt's thinking.
Yeah.
So he got up and he spoke about playing baseball and and he didn't like baseball, but his dad made him play like at night and field grounders in the yard and all this kind of stuff. And he grew up just hating baseball, and he ended up getting he played college baseball at Arizona State, and then went on and had the opportunity to go pro, but he said no because he was done. He hated baseball, didn't want to do it anymore. Exactly. And so then he ended up somehow getting into football and played football, and then got a tryout with the Dallas Cowboys and all this kind of stuff. So it was an interesting story. But I'm looking at that clock and I'm like,
And that's the head coach of this football team?
Yeah.
You could say that on another night.
they do this.
He need to get it off his chest.
Well, they do this. They have two speakers, like on Thursday nights, they'll have two that get up and speak. And so they'll have somebody from the coaching staff and then somebody else. And so I'm looking at that clock, and then, then he started playing a YouTube video of somebody else. It was one of
Basically giving a speech.
of Admiral McRaven doing his make your bed
Oh, yeah.
thing.
Yeah. You can't do both of those. That's two speeches.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So I was
Yeah.
like, well, now we're really going to run out of time. And he comes up while the video for McRaven is on, and he's like, hey, how much time do you guys need? And my cousin's like, about 15 minutes. And he goes, well, I'll try to skip through some of this video, and then I'll cut this
Why
short,
are you
whatever.
apologizing? This does not sound like you need to give an apology here.
No, not me. No, not yet. But let me.
Okay.
So he cuts it short, and he finishes it out, and then
He doesn't cut it short.
And
but go ahead.
then I get up, and it's my turn to speak. And so now I'm like, I'm looking through this and I'm like, okay, I've got like 6 minutes. I was like, they're going to be late to eat no matter what. I said, I'm going to try to cut this down as much as I can, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because the title of my speech was Be a Warrior. And it doesn't matter whether it's being a warrior on a battlefield, being a warrior in daily life, or being a warrior on a football field. I said they all have the same kind of principles that you can kind of take into them. That's kind of what I wanted to relay to these kids.
Yeah.
And so as my attention getter, I'd planned to get up and I had this whole thing planned out, and it didn't work. So I was like, well, how am I going to kind of break the ice with these kids? And so
have one of your legs fall off.
No, that wouldn't have been good.
That get some attention.
It would get some attention. It wouldn't have been good. So I was just like, well, I'll just ask them who in here has a relation in each branch of the services. And then at the end, so I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So I had them raise their hand. I was like, okay, who's got here? Who has some family in the Army? And, there's some kids that raise their hand. I was like, ooh, that sucks for you. Who's got somebody who has somebody in the Air Force? And the coach raises his hand. Oh, that sucks. And then who has somebody in the Navy? I was like, oh,
yeah,
whatever I said, but I was trashing all the other services. Who's got somebody in Space Force? And nobody raises their hand. Everybody kind of laughs. And then I say, hey, who's got somebody in the Marines? And I was like, that's what I'm talking about. And so then I get into my speech, and then I get to run. I go through it, and I'm talking, and I end it with, I kind of relate the Marine Corps to the Spartan heritage, and how we kind of have a close relationship with the Spartan warriors, because a lot of our Marine Corps ethos.
Very close relationship.
Well, I'm just saying that a lot of the warrior,
I roll.
a lot of the warrior ethos,
yeah,
is very similar. And so, I quoted a couple of Spartan, not what are they called?
Slogans,
not slogans, but
sayings,
whatever. And how, one Spartan is the equal of any man, but a group, or
I hope you had that on a note card and said it a lot better than you are right now.
I
this must be a monumental failure, because the buildup is taking longer than you had allotted for the speech.
False, because we had to go through his story, your story. We're only in this 3 minutes. And so anyway, I close it out, and I'm like, just like the Marine Corps, and I told him, we had a Viking night before we deployed, and that night was, and I didn't get to tell the whole story, because I was like, I got to cut this short. I was like, but they're getting ready to go eat. And before we'd go to battle, or before we would deploy, we would get together as a unit, and we'd have a Viking night, and we'd eat, and we'd use our hands. And there'd be bull in the ring, where basically if you had a problem with somebody, you could call them out, and then you could fight. Didn't matter what their rank was, but all your issues with that person were going to be quashed that night, because that night may be the last time you ever see that person.
Yeah.
As we go. And if they're killed in combat, you're never going to see them again. So fix it here before we go out there, so we're one unit on the same team as we're going out. And so I told him that, and then I was like, and just like you guys tonight, fix your problems tonight, get right with each other tonight. And I go, because ultimately that's who you're here for, is your teammate to your left and right. I said that's who you need to look out for, and related to the school as a whole, and it being a mission. And
then one of the kids got up and said, "Coach, I got a problem with you."
Nope.
And then they started wrestling.
Nope. I just said, and tonight go eat your dinner, and tomorrow, go beat Olathe North. And that was it. On my drive home, I got to thinking, I was like, I really cut that short, and I didn't get to say like any of the main points really that I wanted to make. I just kind of had to breeze through it and make it just kind of like almost like a cheesy deal. Other than the coach was talking about discipline and motivation, and good motivation and bad motivation and stuff like that. And I got up and I didn't even relate it to motivation. I just said, motivation and discipline are kind of the hallmarks of a Marine. And I basically joined the Marine Corps to kill people, and so started off like that.
Yeah.
But first I offended every branch and then I never got to wrap it and bring it all together at the end. So these kids,
so they think you hate all the other branches.
These kids probably think that I'm a
jerk.
I'm a jerk.
You're a Marine jerk. They probably think all Marines are jerks.
Oh, probably. But the recruiting numbers probably just skyrocketed. So
doubt it, because the Marines keep you from eating dinner on time.
Well, I did say leaders eat last, and that was actually quoted by the coach. Hey, remember, leaders eat last. But so,
yeah, I'm this coach. This coach talks to these kids every day. Like, why is he going to take extra time on a day where there's a guest there?
Well, because the kids don't have that personal connection with the coach. The coach is the coach. I get it. I understand their premise behind what they're doing, because it's I'm going to talk to you, and I want what's best for you.
Why wouldn't they have a personal connection with the coach?
You ever been on a team?
Yeah, and I had a really good connection with my coach.
Did you?
Me
Yeah.
too. I had a really bad connection in high school with my baseball coach, but I had a really good connection.
Is it because there's more
Couple
players
other
on a football
teams.
team?
Yeah, I don't know. They had 90
Well, there's not 90 basketball players. We had like 12.
90 upperclassmen. Upperclassmen. This place,
Yeah.
I got
But
lost.
still,
I got
he's with them a
lost
lot.
walking into this school. But anyway, that's all beside the point. So I'm driving home and I'm thinking, I never did get to wrap it up. So here on the Hardheaded podcast, I'm going to wrap it up.
So you love the Air Force. Go ahead and say it. Say it out loud.
I will not say that. What I will say
the
is
Air
that
Force is the best.
I will say that the end of my speech was supposed to bring it all together and wrap it up into a nice little ball and say it's a team effort, because it was the Navy who took care of me at the site of the blast. It was the Army who got me to the hospital and treated me immediately. And then it was the Air Force who kept me alive in flight from Germany to the United States, and so it took all the branches working together to keep me alive, and so it's a team effort. And that was kind of basically going to be the end of my speech. So to the football team at Gardner Edgerton, I apologize if I offended you, your family, and your siblings, your loved ones, whoever is serving in a branch other than the Marine Corps, even though the Marine Corps is the best.
But all of the excuses that you gave beforehand you're not taking ownership over it in general. Because I didn't have enough time, because the coach, blah, 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 blah.
Well, what was I supposed to do, Chet?
Well, let me tell you right now, if you have something to say, and I remember this in my speech class when I was in college, during my persuasive speech. Persuasive speech. I went, it was 7, you had to go 7 minutes, and you get deducted high or low from not hitting the target. You go over, you're deducted. You go under, you're deducted. You hit 7 minutes, plus or minus whatever. And then if you hit outside of that range, you get points deducted off. You get points deducted off for ums and ahs, and you get points deducted off if you don't cover everything you're supposed to in persuasion.
Yep.
All this kind of stuff.
I got a D in speech.
I got a B on this one, just this specific speech, because
You went long.
it was 7 minutes and I went 14. That was the only deductions that I had. But you want to talk about persuasion? There were multiple people in the classroom crying.
Oh, is this
I had them going.
Is this the one about Diet Coke?
Aspartame? Yes.
God,
they were certain that their mother was about to die because they drank like 7 Diet Cokes a day.
Was Ashley in that class?
No.
Oh.
And they were going nuts.
14. It's like what is that? Varsity Blues. 45 minutes for the rest of your lives. It's like Chet's 14 minutes for the rest of your life.
You boys having a time of their life.
Don't drink that aspartame, man.
Aspartame.
Whatever.
Oh, you're crazy. Well, thank you for that public apology to the football team there.
Yeah, that was good.
But you at least ought to let your guests go first if you're.
Well, now granted, I did think it was a little odd. I was like, well, okay.
Yeah.
And then to me, it was a little weird to show Admiral McRaven.
You can't do that.
Speaking motivationally.
But you can't do that.
You got the guy right here. Because I got up and trashed him too.
Yeah.
But because I was like, the SEALs think they're the best. Please give me a break.
Every time I've ever been pitted against a SEAL, I've won.
In what?
Speaking, I've spoken at several events
Okay.
where the motivational person happens to be a Navy SEAL, And
you dominate.
well, they have apps for these these conferences, and so you get to rank. This breakout session was 5 stars, this whatever, and then you end up getting a score over all the stuff, and they rank speakers. And I've been to 3. 2 of them were the same Navy SEAL, but 2 different Navy SEALs over 3 conferences. I always rank higher. So I'm just saying.
Well, they're good at killing people, not speaking, I guess.
I guess, but they were getting paid to speak at that event, and they weren't the best.
Did you get paid?
No, I was part of my job. I guess
so. You kind of
but
got paid.
But I would say that we have a mutual friend that spoke at something where I didn't speak, and he did better than I would have. If we were judged on that one, I would have lost. Kevin. He would have beat me.
All right. Well, thanks for that apology, Matt. I'm sure they're happy now.
I hope so.
You better send them a link to this podcast.
Email it to their superintendent. It's a school.
Now, I will say that
actually the coach can invite another special guest to speak next week, and then just play this podcast between his speech and then the guest speaker coming up.
There you go. Make it part of the slideshow.
Yeah.
Maybe that might not be too bad. But they ended up playing Olathe North, which is the best team in the 6A.
Did they win?
No, they lost 13-2. But that's not bad. They got a safety on them, and then it was 0-0 until the fourth quarter, and then I think they just got two quick touchdowns for Olathe North, and Gardner ended up losing, but not a bad showing against possibly the best team in 6A.
I have a feeling.
Not to be confused with Andale, which just routed Nickerson 108-0 a couple weeks back.
I'd like to see Andale play Mays this year. I know it's not going to happen, but that would be a good game.
Are you guys 5A?
Yeah, I think so.
5A.
But they've been putting up 60, 70 points on everybody they play.
Now, is that Mays or May South?
Mays.
Mays.
Didn't
they just get beat by May South?
No, they just stomped a mud hole in. It was 62 to, I don't know, 14.
Yeah, I actually looked at the stats. Our team outscores our opponents by an average of 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, by running the ball. They run the ball.
Yeah, we don't really.
It's not like this wide open offense deal. They literally just run over you on their way to the end zone.
It's so much fun to watch. But I didn't get a chance to go to that Nickerson game. But some of the comments from people about class and running up the score and blah 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 blah. I was like, we had a running clock the whole second half.
All your freshmen in.
All the freshmen in, and they couldn't stop our freshmen.
And they ran the same play.
Yeah.
Just run it.
And their defensive coordinator used to go to Andale.
Yeah.
And played for K-State.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm falling asleep talking about high school football, so let's take a break and go to our top 3.
At Admiral's Pennant, our mission is to offer the latest and refined, high-quality masculine products and services to the modern gentleman, as well as provide him with the tools and products necessary to look, act, and feel confident in his appearance and social interactions. Check it out at admiralspennant.com. Without it, you might as well shave.
You can do it, Johnny! Remember that on Varsity Blues?
No.
No?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Just thought I'd throw some more high school football
Welcome back
stuff
to
in there before.
Trussell Media Studios.
That's right. That's where we're at tonight. Trussell Media Podcast Studios and Video Studios.
Just call it studio.
We just do everything in the studio here, media-wise.
Coming to you from the air capital.
There you go.
Of the world.
All right, Chet. Top 3 items to take hunting. What you got?
I'm assuming that we're not talking like bring a gun,
that's number 1.
license.
No, you don't necessarily need that.
You don't really need a
plug.
license, depending on where you
A plug, you don't need that either, especially if you don't have legs.
That's right. So I'm not listing those. I'm going a different direction than that. Number 3, a headlamp. So typically all the hunting I do is either you get out there before the sun comes up, so you need light, or you stay till after the sun goes down, so you need light coming back. Hands-free lighting device, headlamp. I prefer the Black Diamond brand of headlamp. I know you spend a little bit extra money, but they're awesome. The one I use actually has been through my washer cycle and still works just fine. So headlamp, number 3. Number 2, it's a part of the gun, a sling, specifically the claw, made by Quake slings. It's fantastic. It does not fall off your shoulder, and the shotgun sling is only like $19. So I love it. I have one on my duck gun, and I have one for my deer rifle.
The sling?
A sling, yeah. Put over your shoulder.
No, what's it called? Oh, the
claw.
claw.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Is that the one with like the elastic,
No,
or is it rubber?
rubber. It's no elastic.
Yeah, I think I've got
And,
one.
yeah, nylon through rubber.
Yep.
It's great. I love it. Number 1, a fixed blade knife. A good one. Spend a little money there. But you can,
And have it with you,
yeah,
on you.
right.
What?
Troy, you should always have a fixed blade knife on you.
In case you spine a deer and then you only bring 2 arrows and then you're
go
like,
up there
I
and-
shot one, but I didn't hit the other one and I missed. And
Pretty sure I had one on me that day.
You should have killed that deer, dispatched the deer.
with the knife.
Yeah.
Well, I just shot
But you
it
didn't have
again.
one because I asked. I said, I could probably go back in the text string and find that. You're like, no, I don't. And I only have 2 arrows. Oh, I'm on my way.
Yeah. Anyway, I had to do that one time. I dropped a deer and went back to the camp, got Tim, like, okay, I'm sure it's dead by now. We'll go. It's pitch black. It's, end of the night. And it had just paralyzed the deer and it was not dead. It just dropped right there and was breathing just fine. I'm like, oh. And so took my knife out and did what I had to do. And Tim's like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. He started getting a little queasy. Like, what was I supposed to do, Tim? Like, back up 10 feet and shoot it again? Or, he's like,
Or Troy, back up.
That's
10
what I would have
feet
done, and I'm like, no, dude, you just have a knife.
I just back up and shoot it again.
Yeah. yeah, clearly.
And your second shot's worse than your first.
It did the job.
More than just the job.
Yeah, and the guts and everything else.
All right. That's my top 3. I do have some honorable mentions.
Yeah. All right. My number 3. Heat.
Like a coat?
Like enough clothes to keep you warm,
You don't have enough clothes to keep you warm.
or some heat. Some like those hand warmers.
You need some hot hands. You need some
hot hands. Yeah.
your boot situation needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
Your feet get cold
Yes,
when you're
they
deer
do.
hunting. Yeah.
What do you use? What do you bring?
I wear wool socks,
I wear wool socks.
Me too.
and Matt's feet haven't been cold since 2013,
11.
Or they actually have been cold wherever they are.
No.
And insulated boots, like that are big enough to move your feet around. I wear Solomon boots. They're really nice. But before that, I had Cabela's branded boot. But you wear rubber boots.
No, I got the.
I thought you had those lacrosse rubber boots.
I wear those duck hunting if we're going in the water.
Yeah, I've seen you deer hunt in them. Like that time that you came and stayed at our deer camp because you almost died of exposure.
Hypothermia.
Yeah, that's what you were wearing was those lacrosse boots.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was like 10 degrees outside.
I don't remember.
I do, because we saved your life that night.
I just wear what I have.
Okay.
I had a Mr. Buddy. I'd have been just fine, but I appreciate the warmth.
Yes.
Not
Mr.
an
Buddy.
intent. Number 2, snacks.
Yeah.
Snacks. You don't want to get hungry up there.
It makes you stay longer. These are two things that help you stay in the hunt longer.
Yes.
What brings you down? Well, I got too cold. I got too hungry. Yep. And if you're bringing your kids hunting, snacks are critical.
Yes, I learned that a couple years ago.
But I do Jolly Ranchers because they're not big. Put a whole bunch of them in there, and you just keep.
I wouldn't consider that a snack.
For kids.
For a kid, it is.
Oh, for kids, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm a Little Debbie fan. For the
snacks.
We can tell.
That's pretty good.
I prefer Hostess. Number 1, a weapon.
Okay, well, yeah.
Way to think about it.
Yep.
You, sir, were prepared.
When you would have given me the top 3 list, a couple weeks ago, might have prepared a little better.
Nope.
But I got it last night.
Doesn't help.
So you're going to bring a weapon but not bullets? Ammunition? All right, that's good enough. I'll give you one of my top 3s. I mean, my honorable mentions.
Matt, what you got? Since you're so prepared.
I am prepared. Number 3.
Weapon.
A buddy.
A buddy. Bring a buddy hunting?
Yep. It's always more fun, even if you're not hunting in the same blind, to have somebody to share camp with at the end of the day.
It's somebody.
It is nice. Like I do have time when I'm hunting. It's just me.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody else out there. I want my time to do my thing. But it's also nice to share that with somebody else. And so typically, in our Kansas deer season, the first 4 or 5 days are all mine.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, but it's typically the first few days are mine just to kind of get everything.
Right. So you can go out there and watch all those deer and not shoot one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's that.
Prepare for the people coming in.
Right,
be like, hey, this is the one I want you to shoot. Do my work, because I'm typically probably just going to shoot a doe. You know. So if somebody's going to shoot a buck, I want exactly the one, Troy, that they're going to shoot.
There's no history here, audience. Don't worry.
Number 2, a thermos with coffee.
Yep.
Nothing better in the early morning, getting up there, you got your little headlamp on, you get all set up, you get settled in, you kick the old Mr. Buddy on, get it warmed up, nice and toasty. You take your jacket off, open up that thermos, pour that coffee, watch the steam, fog up the windows if you have windows, which I do have windows on the blind.
I don't even understand what he's talking
Yeah,
about. Where is he, at a resort?
He's spoiled.
Kind of.
Spoiled rotten.
You can call it spoiled. I've worked for all of it.
Yeah.
And then number 1, wet wipes.
What?
You never know. Troy is the prime example last episode, having some gastrointestinal issues.
Our audience didn't know about that until just now.
I think they knew last week.
I don't think they did.
No.
But anyway,
Either
you just
way.
carry wet wipes around with you everywhere?
No, just not everywhere. I should. I carry toilet paper in the truck,
Yeah.
but
Why not toilet paper? Why do you need a wet wipe? That's like scented. It's gonna make everything worse.
unscented
Wet wipes.
Unscented wet wipes, because they're thin. The package is thin. They don't take up a whole lot of room in your pack. So and you might forget and just leave them in there, and then all of a sudden, nature calls, and you're in the blind. You get a little stomach cramp with the. And you're like, I gotta go.
The whoosh.
You know that whoosh, the one that kind of builds up, and then all of a sudden it releases, and then it's an emergent situation.
I did take a deuce in a deer blind one time.
In it?
In it?
Yeah. It's a good story. Go ahead, continue.
Like a enclosed?
No, it wasn't enclosed. It was
You like hang over it and
was
let it
like-
drop on the ground, or you like were?
like when you sit down in the chair, you could, you had a little opening around.
Yeah, like a box
to where
blind.
you're headed. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big box blind about
You just left it in there?
15 feet off the ground.
You just left it in there?
Well, there was some cardboard in there, and I just threw it out the side.
What did you wipe with?
You let him go hunting with you?
There was newspaper in the blind for reading the newspaper. So I used newspaper to wipe and took a dump on a box.
You definitely weren't clean. You need the wet wipes.
Threw it over the side. Wet wipes would have been nice that day.
You definitely got some dingleberries coming down. I guarantee it.
I think I was like 13 when I did that. I was in Mississippi.
Did you kill a deer that day?
My dad. No, I didn't even see one. Imagine that.
I wonder why.
They were like, "Oh, there's a bear over there."
There's some grunting going on.
That's a big squirrel dropping turds that big out of the sky.
So dropping a 2 in the blind is probably one of my favorite stories from Wounded Warrior Outdoors.
Yeah.
And we got these 2 Vietnam.
Sorry, audience, that we're going in this direction.
We had 2 guys.
I'm not sorry.
They were both triple amputees, and one of them has since passed. But they were Vietnam veterans, triple amputees. They're turkey hunting in a blind, and Jim, the gentleman who's passed away, is hunting with Denny, and they're sitting in this blind, and Jim's like, "Ooh, I gotta go." Well, you got 2 triple amputees, and they're in these wheelchairs in the middle of a field. They can't get out to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And so Denny's like, "Well, Jim, you better hold it." And he's like, "I can't." And so he spins around.
I had some Subway.
He spins around. He spins around in his chair, and he's hanging his butt over the edge of the chair, sitting backwards, and squeezes it out. And I mean, it stinking to high heaven. I mean, just awful. And Denny's over there like, "Jim, you better get a stick and roll that out of here, because that is terrible." And Jim turns around and looks, goes, "It ain't gonna roll." So they sat in there in the poopy for the rest of the hunt, because ain't nobody coming to pick them up till it's time to come in for the day. So that's one of my more memorable WWO stories.
That ain't rolling.
It ain't rolling.
Oh gosh, my apologies, audience. If you're still with us, thank you.
Oh wow! What's your honor? Is that where are we at? I don't even know.
So my number 1 was wet wipes.
Yeah,
that's what started the
Thanks
whole.
a lot.
Started the
All
whole
right.
thing.
Well, any honorable mentions?
Zip ties. I've used them to tag whatever you killed. I've also used them in duck hunting. You can bundle some grass together, or kind of help fix whatever blind that was somebody left there. I had a thermos of coffee and binoculars as well.
Got to have the binos.
If I'm deer hunting, yes. If I'm duck hunting, I normally don't. I don't pack them.
Yeah, I probably would use them for duck hunting. No, I would have to say honorable mention for me, a Ranger with a winch is dang near a must have, but I didn't put it on my top 3 because not everybody's going to have the access to that.
Yeah, the $30,000 laying around.
Well, it wasn't $30,000 when I bought it. Now those prices are insane.
Yeah.
But no, because I hooked the gambrel to the winch, run it up over the roll cage, tilt the bed up, and just drag the deer up into the bed, close it, and drive off, and then it slides right over into my truck, and then I'm going.
Yeah.
Highfalutin with my
Lots of hard work
with my blind with glass windows, which I didn't know.
And your Mr. Buddy heater with your coat hanger and your coffee thermos.
Coat hanger. I don't know where the coat hanger came from, but
well, you said you took your jacket off. I imagine you hung it up somewhere.
No, I throw it on the ground.
Okay. All right. Well,
I got enough room in there.
I know what to get you for Christmas now is a coat hanger for your
nail and a coat hanger. That's right.
I do. This is what I sit in when I hunt.
Yeah, an office chair.
This is what's in my blind.
Yeah.
Little office chair, sit back. Little alarm system wakes me up when the deer come by. Beep, beep, beep. Oh,
I'm not going to show one today. All right.
Good word.
So from day 40, the good word is the chapter title is Jesus Is, and the passage comes from Luke chapter 9. This is immediately after the feeding of the 5,000. It says this. It says, "It happened that as he was praying alone, the disciples were with him. And he asked them, 'Who do the crowd say that I am?' And they answered, 'John the Baptist, but others say Elijah, and others that one of the prophets of old has risen.' And then he said to them, 'But who do you say that I am?' So who do they say I am? And then who do you say I am?" And then Peter answered, "You're the Messiah." which was accurate. And then he goes on and tells them, don't tell anybody that yet because their time hasn't come to know. But I think it's pretty interesting as we come to this end of this study and going through Jesus's life, basically, that those that were with him, Peter, he was convinced that's who Jesus was, and that was early on. And we know that Peter went through some stuff. But at the end of the day, Jesus also knew that Peter was going to be martyred. In fact, in John 21, there's an account where Jesus says to him that, truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you're old, you will stretch out your hands, and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go. He said this to show by what kind of death Peter was going to have to glorify God. And after saying this, he said to him, follow me. So he's actually knew that Peter was going to be martyred for Christ, following Christ, when he called Peter. And then, we see that Peter comes to realization that Jesus is the Messiah, and follows him all the way to his death, for believing that that Jesus was the Messiah. And if you think about, as our life goes as well, for the Christ followers that are out there, it's really easy to say right after Jesus feeds 5,000 people and is performing all these miracles, yeah, who do you think I am? Well, you're the Messiah, and that's great. And we always, it's when the easy times, it's easy to acknowledge that Jesus is who he is. But also in the hard times, and when Peter was strung up and crucified, he still was saying Jesus is the Messiah. So, Peter had a really good example of Jesus is who he is in my good times, and Jesus is who he is in my bad times. No matter what, that doesn't change who Jesus is. So be faithful to him if things are good or if things are bad, because we know that Jesus paid the ultimate sacrifice for us anyway. So it can't be that bad when we're always going to be with him no matter what. So in the good times and the bad times, Jesus still is who he says he is, and we should still follow him no matter what.
Thanks for listening to the Hardheaded Podcast. Don't forget to share this podcast with others to help us get the word out.
Also, if you haven't yet, please rate and review the show. This helps our podcast show up in other people's suggested shows that may or may not have listened to us before.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.